Hi, I'm Katrina from the Office of Portfolio Analysis, also known as OPA, and today we will go through an overview of the COVID-19 portfolio tool and its functionality. Before we do that, I will show you an outline of the main topics we will include in this video. I know this video is a bit lengthy, and this is to help you become familiar with all parts of the portfolio. The first thing we will do is access the portfolio. Use the publicly available COVID-19 link as you see here in the search bar. You will come to the home screen or the landing page, which shows you a distribution of the articles added to the portfolio over time along with the sources. The graph here can be manipulated by dragging across the screen and selecting a few different dates. Notice that we can also click on parts of the stacked bar chart, and this will run a search within the portfolio tool based off of that criteria. We can easily exit out of this criteria as well if we go to the top of the screen and click on this Go Home area. To launch the tool and see all of the records that are currently in it, click on the Launch button here. This will bring up all of the records that are in the portfolio currently. Remember that this is updated on a daily basis, so this will change depending on when you watch this video and when you access the tool. You will be brought to what we call the table view. This table shows you all individual records, also called articles, and some broad details about them, such as the system ID or the PubMed identifier, PMID, publication date, and so on. Some columns can also be resorted by clicking on the header at the top. If you click on one of these hyperlinks under the system ID, then you will come to what we call the record view. The record view will give you all of the information that we have in regards to that particular preprint or publication. If you want to minimize these categories, you can click on the blue bars. At the bottom, we have a link to the PDF. So this will bring you to the available article that was originally found and added to the database. Another way to access that PDF is to go to the second tab up here where it says Associated Documents. This will bring you to a preview of the article where you can also download the file. The last tab up here is the attachments. If the article has anything like a table or any graphics, then that will also be available here. Again, it will be found in a new window, so you can simply go back and it will take you back to the table view here. If you want to save that particular record, we'll go back to it. Then you can go ahead and click on the permalink here at the top. Notice this will open up in a new window, and this unique URL can be saved or shared for later use. Another helpful thing that you can do within the record view is click on this Go to Source, and this will bring you to the original source of the article. So notice this came from Research Square, and so now you're in this database. We'll go back to the COVID-19 portfolio tool and exit out of this view, and now we'll talk about the buttons up top. A quick example is to search for two simple words such as transmission and droplets. I won't go in detail about this because there's another video that is specifically on using the search bar and inputting different search syntax. But you'll quickly see here that I'm going to look for these two words within the title and abstract. So if I hit the magnifying glass to execute the search, I get 130 publications that meet this criteria. So we've just gone over the search bar and these first two buttons here. The and or buttons could have also been used here. If I did not type in the word and, I could have used this button and repeated the search and gotten the same results. Moving on, the next button is the reset. So this will simply bring you back to the landing page so that you can start over. Now I have the entire database here without limiting it to any criteria. The next button up top is the advanced filters. We'll do one example in here quickly. So I'm going to look at articles between January 1st, 2020 and April 1st, 2020. And for this example, I'm going to look at guidelines. I will select both of these, guideline and practice guideline. These are different tags that PubMed will put on the articles. When I apply the filters, you'll notice that there's now a breadcrumb trail at the top, which shows us how exactly we've limited our criteria. I have 5 publications or preprints that meet this criteria. Just like we talked about with the keyword search, I can also share this URL here because this is unique to the search that I've just run. Before we review the last buttons up here, I'm going to go over the Facets screen. The facets are another way to search the database, limit your results, or get an overview of your search criteria. Keeping the guideline search, we can see the major distributions of each facet based on our criteria. You can also use the breadcrumb trail up here in order to broaden your search. So notice that I can click on this X, and now I have 55 publications or preprints, and the Facets screen has also been updated. To use the Facets screen to also narrow down your search, you can click on individual facets, or you can turn the multi-button on and click on several parts of a facet, or different facets. We won't go over this in any more detail because there's another video that is specifically on the facets. I'm just going to exit out of one of these so I have a larger data set to work with. Before we work with this data set, I'll go over the options. This is where you will find the user guide, option to submit feedback, and the OPA website. I will give you a preview of each of these just so that you know what to expect. The user guide has a lot of very useful information in it, especially in terms of searching. There are a lot of advanced searches you can do in terms of minimum match, wildcards, looking at specific fields such as the abstract, or even searching for a title. You can find more about this in the search syntax video. The next button is Submit Feedback. This will open up an Outlook email. The next button in the options will bring you to the OPA website. This will allow you to access any publications or other news that we've posted, and also a link to the COVID-19 portfolio. The last button that we need to discuss is the Export and Visualization button, which can be found directly underneath the options. So we'll go over the visualization tool first, since this is still within the COVID-19 portfolio. Remember that the visualization had a 5K or 5,000 article limit, and we've already limited our records accordingly. So when I select the visualization, it creates a foam tree which clusters the articles together based off of natural language processing, or NLP. This extracts conditions, targets, and more from the titles and abstracts. Recall that you can find more information about this tool and the methodology behind the extraction in the user guide. If I click on any one of these clusters, then I can see exactly which articles are included in that cluster, and I could even open a new search or download these documents. These clusters are not exclusive, so that is one thing to keep in mind. This entire image can also be downloaded as well. To get back to the COVID-19 portfolio, you can click on this arrow. The last button that we need to discuss is the Export. Export allows you to select the information that you want exported from the web-based portfolio or your specific search into an Excel or CSV file. You can see that you have the ability to unwind on different fields, which basically means that if you have a field or a cell that ends up being within your Excel file that is multi-valued, as you can see in the picture here, that those values will be separated into individual cells. So you may want to do this depending on your analysis question, or this might actually make things more complicated. You have the option to include the visualization categories and the link to the source, like we saw before within the record view. I want to make sure that I give my export a name, and if I make it an Excel file, it will have 3 tabs. A CSV will only have 1 tab or 1 sheet. So that's one thing to keep in mind as well. I'm going to choose authors, title, and the conditions to export this data. Notice that I get a notification up here, so I know that the export was successful. And I have the export down here being downloaded at the bottom of my Chrome browser. You may need to look within your downloads to find yours, depending on what your default settings are. A quick overview of this Excel sheet, because there's another video that is specifically on the download. But you'll notice that we have our 3 sheets, as I just mentioned. Within the results tab, I have the 3 criteria that I wanted it to export. If I go to the bottom of the sheet, I have my 55 records that were all guidelines. The summary will tell me exactly how I limited my data, if I included any facets, and so on. And then I also have a Facets tab. This is exactly like we saw within the iSearch COVID-19 portfolio, and this can be used for analysis. It can be used to create bar charts and a few other things within Excel. Now you know all of the functionality within the COVID-19 portfolio, and I know I didn't go in detail about a lot of these things, but you can see here that there are several other video tutorials if you want to learn more.